This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
What's going on, everyone? It is I. What the fuck?
Just light applause.
This guy is a huge mark for his gimmicks, man. But anyway, nah. But hey, welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Tragedy with the host of the most, Pierce Austin, John Pause, and I, myself, Suntan Superman, always rocking the gear, on Wrestling with Tragedy. Today, we're going to talk about episode case number 85 with Gino Hernandez, one of the greatest wrestlers. I mean, I think, way ahead of his time, don't you think, Pause?
Yes, definitely. Man, he had everything. What look, charisma, could work, awesome heel. Definitely way ahead of his time, but we'll get into the tragedy that struck not only him, but world-class championship wrestling.
But before we do that, man, let's definitely get those sponsors out the way so we can get this show on the road. Pierce?
First up is healthvape.com, ladies and gentlemen. Healthvape.com offer you a healthy vaping alternative. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they are vitamin infused. So guys, check out healthvape.com. Check out some of their vape and pod products. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase.
And for all you sport athletes out there, definitely go to sleeves.com. It has all your wrestling. You can use it for wrestling, sports apparel, for football, lacrosse, wrestling. Those arm sleeves are definitely the best thing in professional wrestling. But definitely check out those dirty boxes. It's something that I enjoy. I rock in the bedroom. It puts a smile on my girl's face when she sees the King Kong Ding Dong running it wild on her. But anyway, use promo code brother. Use MWA Pod for a 10% off. Wrestling with Tragedy sent you. Tell them that Kingpin approved.
Yeah.
Pierce, you hear how Pierce is like, oh, dude, I can tell the difference when he's like the last show. Hey, this is Pierce Austin, blah, 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 whatever. Now he got his new toys. He's like, man, he's emphasizing his words. He's all happy. He's playing with his gadgets. Yes. 1.21 gigawatts.
He's excited for that Roadcaster.
I know. Spending like $3,000 on that son of a bitch.
Oh, Jesus.
No, not really.
It wasn't that much.
How much is it? Not in Australian. What is it in US dollars?
I have no idea.
Because when he says Australian, it's like, God damn. He goes,
yeah, what the hell?
How much is it in Australia?
It was like 1,300.
See, so okay, so maybe what?
$900.
So it's like 950 US.
Okay, yeah. I might drop some coin on that, but I got to kick it up a notch. Be like, what's your Rodecaster 5000? What is it?
No, so I got the Rodecaster Pro and I got the Podcaster.
And what's anything over that? No, is that just that's the top shelf?
Oh, you can get. I don't know. It just depends on how much money you want to spend. Eh?
No, I just want to be like, hey, Pierce, you got the Rodecaster Pro. I got the Rodecaster Elite.
One up them, yeah. Are those pre-programmed in there, or you put them?
He probably put them in there.
No, they're pre-programmed.
Oh, they're pre-programmed. I thought you had but you could download anything and clips from like, put the cookie down, all that shit, right?
Yeah, I can do all that shit.
Okay.
But guys, look, we are here today to talk about Mr. Gino Hernandez, and his suspicious death as well. And there's many sort of conspiracies around his death, which we will sort of tap into. But Gino Hernandez, I'm gonna be honest, this is a guy when we said we were going to do the show, before this, I hadn't seen much of his work. I'm not going to lie. I have sort of done a fair bit of cramming, watching some matches. And you know what I'm going to say? I really enjoyed his matches with Chavo Senior. Back in the day, those matches were amazing. I believe it was for the WCCW Light Heavyweight Championship. Man, some amazing matches that he was able to put on with him.
But you know what? You know why Gino Hernandez stood out to me? And again, Paz might correct me at the time because again, I was a kid and he was probably younger than I. But I remember him coming out of the jet, styling and profiling like Ric Flair. I don't know I know it was the same time, but who was the first one doing the jet scene? Because he came out the jet, jumped in that Mercedes, had the beautiful girls rocking the gold. He stood out to me. That's what made him almost like the Four Horsemen. He could have been part of the Four Horsemen if he would have lived, because of his style and the way he carried himself with the audience. I just can't remember if it was at the same time or a little bit after Ric Flair doing it, or maybe before Ric Flair doing it. I just don't recall how that timeline occurred. But again, that really caught my eye every time, he came out on as a heel, but also when he was with gentleman Chris Adams. Man, that tag team was just ridiculously just awesome.
It's funny because they do say, like Flair, who was obviously friends with him, was saying like he would have been a great horseman. He fit in that like group like a glove. If you just his look, the way he carried himself, his promos, like obviously he was a former tag team champion in Southwest with his boy Tully Blanchard, and they were a great team too. But that certain personality, cocky asshole, like great heel, he would have fit in perfectly with the Horseman. And I know when Flair would go to World Class and be wrestling down there, Hernandez was one of his drinking buddies, so I know that he was friendly with him.
If you put Gino Hernandez and Tully Blanchard side by side during that era, the way they dress similar, they look similar, they would have been such an awesome tag team, because I could see visually like, no, but I'm saying like if he was in the Four Horsemen.
Oh yeah.
Let's just take out Arn Anderson. Let's just say things changed. Yeah, Arn Anderson was part of the group, but still, I could see them tag teaming because they look so much alike that they could do things like, pull his partner around, pin the other guy, you know what I mean? Because they looked similar, almost like the Killer Bees when they used to put the mask on, they didn't know who was pinning whom. So I don't know. I just think it would have been just ridiculous, awesome. Even though Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard was great, I just think it would have been great as well with those two as well.
One of the things I wanted to ask you as well, because I was watching a couple of promos from Gino, and I almost wanted to, we look at MJF in today's modern society as probably being one of the best heels in the business today. And I wonder how much of Gino Hernandez MJF has sort of watched previously that went into that character, because I see a lot of similarities there. Whereas just the way that he was delivering his promos, the way that he would move his hands are very similar to the way that MJF does. So I'm just wondering if MJF sort of studied a lot of Gino Hernandez's promo work, because it seems like to be very similar as far as like body movement, but also the deliverance of his promos and the confidence in this. I don't want to say the same gimmick, but very similar in a lot of manners.
Definitely. I feel like he almost acts like Gino. I don't even know, because I know he studies tape. He's like an old school fan. I don't know how much of Gino he watches, but you get that feeling like the "I'm better than you" thing. That's like the Gino Hernandez. Like, look at me, look how I'm dressed, look at these hot girls.
Yeah,
look with the I'm better than you. Like that's kind of what it kind of portrays. He definitely is old school to the bone, though. MJF. I wouldn't be surprised if he studied Gino Hernandez at all. Very similar.
Now, just curiosity, what was Gino Hernandez's finish? I never really recall remembering what he used to hit people with. Do you recall, Boz or Pierce?
I don't remember now that I think about it. I'm not sure.
And since you've been doing your research, Pierce, you probably would have saw it just on those matches that you saw. Did you see anything, or was it just like schoolboy roll up, heel stuff?
Not that I can recall. Give me a second. I'm seeing what I can find.
Well, if we can't find it, Wrestling with Tragedy fans, if you could find out what was Gino Hernandez's finisher, definitely tell us. It's definitely interesting. I would like to know. If Jake Roberts had the DDT, Arn Anderson had the spine buster. Tully Blanchard had the snap suplex. Yeah, was it the snap called the snap suplex, or was it the slingshot suplex? Something like that.
Slingshot suplex.
So I'm just curious what he used to hit people with, But I mean, so who trained Hernandez? I mean, I can also recall that.
Jose Lothario.
Okay. Oh, so the one was with the Shawn Michaels before Shawn Michaels, and stuff. So I don't even remember who Jose Lothario trained besides Shawn Michaels. So that sounds, for all the years I've been in pro wrestling, that's just something I should know, but I was never interested in
Jose Lothario is a Texas guy, right? Like that's
where he's Texas. He's basically from Texas. Like I said, the only reason I know about him is when he came out with Shawn Michaels in one of the WrestleManias. So that's all I know about him at the time. I never really did research on him.
Well, Gino actually started training when he was a 17-year-old. So, he started training 17 years of age with Jose Lothario. And also, as I mentioned, he was actually the part of the dynamic duo with Tully Blanchard. And I think that was like the late 70s that they teamed up together. And like, the very similarities are. And I think that that tag team could have been a lot of money if they had stuck together for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. With Arn Anderson, yeah, they made a lot of money. I love that tag team, but just to visually see what could have been with those two as well, it would have been as great, as Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Like I said, I can't take away from my favorite tag team, but again, it's just I would love to have seen something like that. Go back in time and see what could have been.
Talk about heat. Two guys you absolutely hate, Tully and Gino. You know what I mean? As far as characters. You got these two cocky, rich guys, the son of the promoter, this other rich guy walking around with suits on, telling me he's better than me. Like they were heat magnets. But I would love them on the national scale. I know it's Southwest, it's much more territorial, and I know they were on USA, so they did have some national exposure, but I wished it was much more on like an NWA or something like that, much more grander scale.
Oh yeah.
Hernandez never had a run in WWF, did he?
No,
I never recalled. Yeah, no, I don't remember him having any tryouts, any appearances. I mean, there's a possibility because a lot of people made appearances just to put people over,
but not a run though. Yeah,
nah, I never seen a run. But you know what? Never mind. I just saw something here that. Let me read it before I even say it because I want to give false information. But go ahead, pause. What you was gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say he didn't have like an extended run or anything like that.
Yeah, like mostly just come in for like a quick tour or something like that.
Mostly world class.
Yeah, one of the things with Gino, so his death, was quite it's an interesting thing as I was looking into it. He died of they thought it was a homicide, but they said that he had. It was an overdose that he died of, but he had 5 times the lethal dose of cocaine in his system. So the lethal dose that will kill you times 5 of that, like your body couldn't possibly handle ingesting that. Like at a certain point, I know cocaine amps you up, but like at what point would you be like so fucking out of it you'd be barely conscious?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about him, I mean, absolutely, that was just the thing that really stuck out to me is just because, if I remember correctly, I mean, he was paranoid during that time. It was like almost like the Dino Bravo situation, like, looked like he was just connected, doing things on the side that he was not supposed to be doing. Because apparently he had a relationship with this a reputable drug dealer named John Royal, and they say that he could have had some type of involvement in Gino Hernandez's death. Again, these are just all rumors,
Well, dude, they found cocaine in his stomach.
Yeah.
But look, I'm not big on drugs and I don't know the knowledge of it, but say for example, if I, digest cocaine, like swallow it as opposed to like snort it, would that then go through the same if I've just eaten something? So like, could that have been the case? Like, could it just been he'd eaten, like he'd just dunked it down in his back of his tongue?
Well, the thing about the problem is, like I said, I never done cocaine except that one story by accident. But I don't know, man. I'm not a connoisseur of the white gold. Pause. Are you familiar with any of how to ingest?
Nope.
The Colombian gold.
Pause is like, not at all. 1 second.
No, I mean that's the thing. I mean, either sniff it, shoot it, but
what's that great Chris Farley line? Smoking, shooting, snorting, sniffing.
I mean, I think you could bake it. I mean, I know I saw it on the show Taxi where the
Tony
guy from
Danza.
No, not Tony Danza.
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd, where they had the cookies and he's like, "Oh, this is from Peru," and he's like, "You ever saw that episode where?"
It's been a while. Yeah, I remember. I used to watch the show all the time. Yeah,
he's like, "Oh yeah, it's a high quality." It was a good episode, but again, I don't know. He could bake with it and get you high too, but again, it's just weird, man. It's just like it was just this paranoia that he had. He used to look out the window with a gun, like he was waiting for somebody, like he did something, like.
Betrayed. When you say waiting for somebody, he was waiting for something to pop off, or what?
Yeah, man. I mean, look at, like I said, the Dino Bravo thing. They call, I mean, he was dead in his chair because they came into his house, and if I recall, I mean, he think that, you know, I mean, if you owe drug dealers money, and I'm not saying he did, I'm just saying, like, and you're gonna be like looking out the window, man. You know, I mean, you don't want you to get your thumbs cut off and shit. You know, being sleeping on the job, thinking nobody's gonna come after you and stuff. You know, that's scary. You know,
can I put a theory out there and like tell me what you think about this, right? Because there's many different theories, and we will go into them. So the fact that he was murdered,
allegedly.
Allegedly murdered. The alleged reports of his murder or the conspiracy of his murder could it have been he's pissed off that, like, because one of the things I found out, he was running with a pretty rough crowd. So you're running with a rough crowd, drug dealers, criminals, gangsters, whatever, and you fuck these people over, and then they think of you as, and also other reports were saying that Gino was a big party guy. Like he was big on the drugs, like he was just huge. So what if he'd gotten into this exponential amount of debt with these people? And I'm kind of thinking this is kind of a little bit ridiculous as well, because why would they waste that much drugs in a point to this? But like, and they just were like, come here, you fucking pig, and just started shoveling it down his throat. Because for him to have it like in his stomach, that's where I'm like, is that a possibility here?
But the problem is that if you I mean, again, supposedly I'm thinking, and you know, but if you're ingesting it, won't you have residual in your mouth, in your teeth, in your face, you know, traces of it? I mean, if he was clean, like clean, you know, like if he's clean, that's nothing, then it's, I mean, trying to like figure that out. But I mean, if somebody made him eat it, I mean, it's a possibility, man. I mean, there's a possibility. Nothing slips by anybody in regards to this matter. But that's just a scary thing in regards to that type of situation, is because it's just weird, man. Like I said, ingesting all that. I mean, I don't have no theory on it because I just never came across that. Even in law enforcement, I never saw any type of person ingesting it, shooting it, sniffing it, but not ingesting it.
The weird thing, though, was about the death was, okay, he's paranoid, all this other stuff. They said he has a deadbolt. David Manning, who did everything for WCCW, referee behind the scenes, booking everything, and another referee, Rick Hazard, was saying when they went to this place, the deadbolt wasn't on. So somebody was in there, came in and left. Who knows who it could have been? It could have been a girl he was with. She got scared after he overdosed. They got out of there. Who knows? But they're saying he was so paranoid. Everyone knew about the deadbolt that was friends with him, and he'd always have the deadbolt, and he'd always be looking out the window, and he had a gun. Like all this other stuff kind of points to, well, that's strange. How come the deadbolt wasn't on the door? He's a paranoid motherfucker. Like, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, that's just something that But when did this paranoia start? Do you remember that? Like, when did it start, like, really getting serious where he was
Well,
just
they're saying
out?
like mid-'80s, I guess 84, 85, obviously he dies in the beginning of 86, but they're saying like that's when he started really running with the bad crew, and he was always out at the clubs, and, you know, he started kind of dabbling, obviously, into the cocaine, like we're saying, and everything else. So sometime around that point, he started dealing with this guy, John Royal, and all of his friends, and they're saying how paranoid he became in like towards the end of his life.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was rolling deep with John Royal at the clubs and stuff, and you know, that's what throws me off, because apparently I just think that, I mean, I think he just owed him a lot of money, and he just kept putting, you know, I'll pay you, and he was just building up debt, and eventually, you know, some drug dealers, man, you know, you got to pay me, man, or I have to make an example out of you. Because
what did you think about the funeral? That's kind of odd. John Royal's behavior. Yeah, and like taking over and doing the eulogy and stuff, like that's odd behavior for a drug dealer that you supposedly owed money to.
True, but again, he might be covering his tracks, because just in case, you know, so many people who do, you know, arsonists showing up at the scene, you know, to see his work. You know, sometimes you try to like put the smoke and mirrors because, you know, oh, he couldn't kill him because he was there. He was at the hospital concerned. You know what I mean? You try to throw that curveball in to make things less suspicious, you know, I'm assuming, you know. I mean, go ahead, Pierce.
Like, I think one of the things that they suspected was, and yeah, we touched on someone faking their death when we did the Andy Kaufman episode, and one of the rumors is that he faked his own death because his family never saw the body. His manager, Walter Amon, was the one who identified the body and organized the funeral, closed casket. And because Gino's body wasn't found like the day of his passing, it was found like 3 days later. So his body was already decomposing. So he didn't put that onto his family. But there was a lot of suspicion around that because he'd actually spoken to his mother and his ex-wife about faking his own death.
And the interesting thing is, and Angel, you would probably speak to this the best, the autopsy report, everything was wrong. Is this the guy being irresponsible and he's incorrect with the autopsy report, or was it somebody else's body? Because that was another thing that was a red flag to the ex-wife and to the mother, like, okay, he wasn't that fat. Obviously, if he's 6'3", 240, cut, lean guy in great shape. They were saying he was like fat, out of shape. Like everything was wrong. So, like, does that happen on an autopsy report? Is the guy just lazy, or was it the wrong body?
Well, I mean, besides being bloated, I mean, again, if he was dead for quite a while, then the gases in his body is going to make him, over bloated. And
They
stuff
also
like that. But
had
again,
was the wrong nationality they had on it as well,
which was weird. Yeah, really weird.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, but you got to remember, back in the 80s, during that time, everybody's palm was greased. So, I mean, there's a lot of conspiracies in regards to this. But again, for a guy who's, a forensic, with high degrees and stuff like that, I mean, making all these mistakes is not something that's normal. You know what I mean? Maybe one, two things that he messed up on, that's just obvious. But for continues doing all these mistakes, that's pretty weird. That definitely throws up red flags for me. Because again, I mean, if somebody came in there, hey, you make sure this body's this and that, or if not, your family's dead, you'll be like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Fuck it, as a wrestler, who's gonna give a fuck? Nobody's gonna know.
It's one of those things where like it should be cut and dry, right? Oh, the guy OD'd and blah blah. And then it's like, wait a second, he's talking about faking his own death. The autopsy report's completely wrong. The deadbolt on his door wasn't on. Like all this other stuff starts leading up. You're like, I know conspiracy theory. Oh, can't do that. It's crazy. But everything almost points in the direction like this isn't very cut and dry. Like Angel, like if you were investigating, it's like, all right, let's not do black and white. Like it's over. Like there's a shade of gray here, big time.
Yeah, but if I was the guy who's doing the examination on the body, I'm not gonna put like Italian male, I'm just making it up, whatever they race, he's a Jewish male, whatever, and 6'2". I mean, I'm gonna make it to the letter, make sure that this motherfucker, man, regardless if it doesn't look like him or whatever, because I'm gonna keep the casket closed, but I want to make sure that the paperwork's gonna say Gino Hernandez, whatever his real name was, the right height, the right weight, cause of death, overdose, shit. There's no if he was choked, I'm just making that up. Don't put it in the paperwork. Just smoke and mirror it. But why fuck up paperwork knowing that it's going to come back and bite you in the ass when people question it? Again, why?
Especially this high profile of a wrestler, especially down in Texas. I mean, superstar. This was, national, well, not national, but this was big news down in Texas. So it's like, okay, you're going to screw up the autopsy. Somebody's going to look into it pretty quickly.
Oh, 100%. And, when screwing up the autopsy, and that was being like the big sort of feel of it, the only thing I think is, why didn't his family step in and say, hang on a second, no, we want to see the body? Why did they just let this Walter Amon guy just take care of everything? Do you think they were just so stricken with grief they were just like, yeah, let him do it? Because Gino Hernandez was, what, 28 when he died?
29, yeah.
29.
And
he had a lot ahead of
his career, yeah, big time. Many years of wrestling ahead of him, at least 10, at least, probably, maybe even more. I mean, and the way he was projected and the way he was headed, definitely was probably going to head to the NWA or maybe even WWF, because he had the size too. So it's one of those things where it's like maybe the mother or maybe the family almost didn't want to believe it. I don't know why. Maybe it could be grief stricken, but man, I wouldn't want an immediate closed casket thinking like I would kind of want some proof, especially after he was saying, I might have to fake my own death. I'm in it with the wrong people around here.
Oh, 100%. And, a lot of other groups of people in the wrestling business say that, there was no conspiracy. There's no faking of the death. There's no murder. He was a big party guy, and he was an intense party guy. When he went out, he was intense with the drugs. Like, it was not just like a small night with him. It was like full on blown out crazy. It was also, I believe Jake Roberts reported that he was also involved in the gay community. And now I'm not saying he was doing anything, and whatever. I'm not saying he was gay, but I'm saying he was involved in the gay community. For all we know, he could have just been an ally that was supportive of that community. But
what does his sexual preference have to do with anything, with his death?
It's absolutely nothing. I'm just reporting the facts. You know what I mean? Like, could it have been, something, by a scorned lover? It was, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just trying to put different sort of theories out there here, Angel.
Jake also said there's no way he OD'd too. Jake was saying that he definitely something else at play. Michael Hayes said the same thing. Oh, no way he OD'd. But then like Brutus Beefcake was like, oh, he was insane. Like, of course he OD'd. He's nuts. So you never know, like, if the wrestler's being truthful or if they know something. Like Jake, I don't know. Sometimes Jake just says stuff. Like, does he really know something, or is he just kind of stirring it up?
Well, I mean, but also Jake is always, Jake is dark, man. And he's been, if anybody's going to be in the mix of some bullshit, Jake Roberts will be in the mix. And remember, like my stories, I've been involved in some shit that I seen and I was there. Doesn't mean I was involved, I was partaking, but I was there because I was one of the boys, so Jake could have seen something, just like the Haku biting somebody's nose. Yeah, I was at the bar. I was sitting at the other table. Yeah, I saw that shit. I was there. I know what happened. So sometimes Jake was probably, seeing the shit that he's like, yo, this could have happened. I seen this and that. When you're in the wrestling business and you're hanging around with your clique or your boys, you're going to see some shit,
Yeah.
Like 100%. The time when I saw you in Australia with that kangaroo, but that's a different show. Anyway.
Oh, damn.
Oh.
There you go. He's so happy, man. This motherfucker. Do you have it labeled so you know which one you're hitting?
Nah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Try to figure it. Oh, it's not killing the business, man. No fans. Chirp, chirp, chirp.
Exactly. But it's interesting, to look at the different sort of elements of what people believe that his passing could be. I think if he had faked his own death, wouldn't we have heard something like not from 1986 to 2021?
You would think.
What? Yeah, but why fake? That's the funny thing. Andy Kaufman, the guys who escaped from Alcatraz, everybody's faking their death, man. But back in the days, you could do that. You could disappear in Argentina and not fucking be seen again. But I just don't see a reason for why he faked it. Would he fake his death? Even when you tell me the story,
to get away from huge amounts of debt that he owed to drug dealers.
Dude, if you owe money to a drug dealer, especially if he's high up, you're gonna be found, man. It's you're gonna be found. There's no fucking way around it. You know what I mean? They will get you. It depends on how high up the drug dealer is. If he's just a local jabroni, maybe not. But again, supposedly, maybe. You never know. But I just can't see him faking his own death just for that reason. I don't know. I could be wrong. I just can't see it.
Do you guys could you guys see it being a murder?
I see it more like a murder, as you didn't pay your debt, I'll kill you. I see it that way. Absolutely.
But
make it look like an OD. Yeah.
At the beginning of the show, like I said, like they could have made it look like an OD, but like as they said, it was like in his stomach. And I hate to keep on. I don't want to keep harping on in this point, but it's like if someone's going to kill him, why would they waste copious amounts of cocaine shoveling it down his throat?
Because you have abundance of it.
True. But also the amount of cocaine, what that does to you as well, would amp you up. If you keep feeding someone cocaine, they're going to go into cocaine rage and start going fucking mental. So you would have had to have held that motherfucker down.
That's what I was going to say. If you're holding the guy down, I know this doesn't have nothing to do with, but look at the Marilyn Monroe murders, or other murders that were during the John F. Kennedy, the witnesses. They heard stories where they used to take barbiturates, soak the tampon and stick it in your butt, and then you OD'd, and then they pull it out and there's no trace in your stomach. There's many ways to murder somebody, man. That they was like, oh my God, she had this amount of drugs in her stomach or in her system that would kill a horse. You can't swallow that many barbiturates. It's impossible. But because of the toxicology, how much she had in her system. But anyway, again, if it's cocaine in the system, they're like, yo, this is what killed you. This is what made your life, kill you with the stuff that you had a debt on. Like, you wasted your life with this. You owed me this. This is what's going to kill you. you know.
There's a reason it possibly couldn't be murder. Maybe it was OD, was the fact that maybe he was partying with a bunch of girls and then they left and obviously didn't do the deadbolt because they're getting out of there. They're scared. But the referee, Rick Hazard, went to the house, found a shitload of cocaine, and before the cops could get there, dumped it in the toilet and flushed it. So there was some sort of other cocaine party. I think if you're a drug dealer, you're not going to leave all this shit on the floor and like, oh, we killed him, let's get out of here. Wouldn't you take this shit and get out? So he found a bunch more cocaine on the floor and flushed it down the toilet, which also, you know, you being cop, is that kind of getting rid of some evidence there for some reason from Hazard? But he was supposedly just trying to protect Gino and get rid of the cocaine, not realizing how much was in his system.
But you know what's funny? Man. But you know what's funny? Go ahead, man.
I was just gonna say, of course, man. Like, you want to protect your buddy's image and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're one of your buds is like laying dead in a hotel room floor, and he's a well-known celebrity, or he's a celebrity status, he's got celebrity status, I should say. There's drugs all around. Do you want your buddy's final legacy to be like them cutting him out with a fucking, you know, room full of drugs? Like, I can understand that.
But also look at it like this. Think about it this way: the deadbolt was unlocked. Possibility somebody came in, possibly could have been a girl, you know, setting him up. They show up, you know, where's my money? Oh, I don't have it. I promise I'll pay you. You know, he has his thugs with him. Gun, you know, gun pointed to your head. Eat this shit. Eat it. Force, you know, you force feed yourself, you know, or we'll kill you. And you're eating and you're eating and you're eating and you're eating, and then watching you fucking kill yourself. And then finally you overdose. I mean, those are many variables that you could do to somebody because of fear to get shot. And then you just make them watch them kill themselves by ingesting the cocaine. I can see that happening. Wipe your mouth, rinse your mouth out, drink this, swallow this. You know, after a while, you're like, oh, there's no residue, there's nothing. And then he fucking drops dead, you know? I mean, they did that with Sonny Liston. You know, supposedly they found his ass dead because he owed money, something about the mob because he threw, you know, the way he, you know, because of the conspiracy about him during the fight and the mafia killed him. You know, and he was OD, found fucking the syringes in his thigh. You know, so many things, man. Like I said, but I could see them doing that to him.
Dude,
you know?
That's fucked up. But yeah, man, could you imagine being that guy being forced to eat that much cocaine? Like at what point would you be that high that you couldn't actually function anymore and do it? Like, you'd be like that you would be that fucked up, like you wouldn't even know what you're doing.
It was like, it's like getting to a point of like, again, I don't know how you feel when you're high on coke, but I mean, if you drink so much and you just all, you know, you can't stand, you can't walk, you know, you slur your words. I mean, there could be a certain point that he just couldn't do anything, you know? I mean, just sit there and just be all googly eyed and stuff and then died, you know? Again, I'm not an expert on what happens if you OD'd on coke, but
well, if they made him eat copious amounts of it, what cocaine does as well, it would make your mouth numb. So literally, like, he would have no feeling in his mouth at all.
Oh man, I wish I would have had that for you, so me and Paz could do the show without you taking over.
Oh, damn. You know what's crazy though? The fans actually, when they found out Gino Hernandez was dead, they were blaming Chris Adams, who they were having that big feud with at the time. And they had, remember the blinding angle in World Class.
Yeah.
They actually were thinking it was Chris Adams, which is crazy. I mean, that's how, you know, obviously you think it's real, but that's how invested those fans were. They're like, it was Chris Adams, he did it. And like, they're like, you know, going after Chris Adams to murder Chris Adams. Like crazy times, but that's how invested they were.
Because Chris Adams was actually going back to the UK, and that they said, "Yep, that's fine, but you've got to sell the blind angle." And I remember that when Gino Hernandez had died, they went and approached him to interview him, whether it's the news or like the wrestling gimmick, and he's got the bandages over his eyes, and and I'm like, "Fuck, man, this guy's even working when his tag team partner legit is shoot dead."
Yeah. He kept the angle going because they were feuding. He kept it going, which is crazy. I guess you got to keep kayfabe no matter what. But it's funny to think like the fans were like legit, like arrest Chris Adams. It was his fault.
And I'm paying attention. I just want to see what happens when you ingest cocaine. What is the symptoms? So I'm just trying to look it up because again, I'm just curious what you know, what happens to you when you do so. But
you know what? Also, that it says like he was 5 times over the lethal limit. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know much about the Kurt Cobain story and how he was like 10 times, or he was either, I think it was like 10 times over the lethal dose of heroin in his system when he died. But in saying that as well, just because that's what was in their system doesn't necessarily means that their tolerance would be at that. If they're doing cocaine on the daily, like every single day, like if Gino was going hard on it daily, like wake up, bang, bang, bang for like 12, 15 hours a day, then that 5 times the lethal dose or lethal amount in his system could have been probably a quarter of a lethal dose, if you know what I'm saying. Yep. Like to him, because his immunity to it was so built up.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, with cocaine, it constricts blood vessels, dilate pupils, and increase blood temperature, heart rate, and blood pressure. It can also cause headaches and gastrointestinal complications such as abdominal pains and nausea. Because cocaine tends to decrease appetite, chronic users can become malnourished as well. So, I mean, it could fucking blow your heart up if you take too much of it. I mean, cause a heart attack, strokes. What was I know ingesting cocaine, but what was the cause? I mean, besides, like, was it a heart attack? Was it a
overdose?
I know overdose, but what, like, it's an overdose, but what it affected? What organs were affected in the autopsy? You know, it is an overdose, but it's going to affect your heart. It's going to affect your, certain things in his body. Was there any other conclusion as well?
No, they just said that the reports of the death following the autopsy was a result of a cocaine overdose.
Okay, I'm just going to look it up, see if I can find it online, his autopsy report. So bear with me, But again, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm just curious because the cause of his death, if it was a overdose of of the cocaine and gave him a heart attack and died, But again, keep going. No pause for the cause. Just want to get my facts straight. So I do apologize to the fans out there.
Yeah, I mean, like, we looked at all aspects of it, and looking at it on paper, for me, I believe that it was a cocaine overdose. Just because, like, for the facts were that yes, he was partying, yes, he may have been connected to a few heavy people, but like, I can't, like, I can't see a drug dealer shoveling cocaine down someone's throat as a way to kill him, because that's like shoveling money down someone. You know what I mean? Why would you do that?
Because
the referee found all the stuff on the floor, so it looked like to be honest, looked like he was probably partying maybe with a girl or a couple girls, and, or maybe it could be a couple friends or whatever. But they're partying, and it just seems like, oh shit, they're gonna think, I don't want to be part of this murder scene or whatever. He ODs, and they just leave the shit all over the place, and obviously don't deadbolt the door because you can't, and they skedaddle and they get out of there, and he's left there for days and nobody knows.
Well, that's the thing. If you're partying with someone, you're doing coke, you're smoking dope, you're fucking doing all these other gimmicks, you're smashing down fucking alcohol. Next thing you know, what, this guy fucking collapses. Fuck!
Right.
Collapses. You're like, 28 years old as well. So imagine, like, the women that he's hanging out with are probably 19, 20, 21. The other people he's hanging out with are 25 to 30. You know what I mean? Same sort of thing. So these young people are seeing that, oh fuck, their first reaction is to fucking flight.
Well,
so
I mean,
they're not going to sit there and go, oh fuck, we got to grab the 8-ball, we got to grab this, we got to grab.
Oh,
they're going to fucking piece the fuck out. No,
I know, but look at John Belushi, look at Chris Farley. There were 2 women at the scenes when they were partying. Robin Williams was hanging out with John Belushi, at the time when they were getting high and stuff like that. When he left, then he was left with a female, and then she took off and took all the dope and everything with him. Sometimes you want. Back in the days, back in the 30s and 40s, when celebrities died, people with high power at Warner Brothers used to show up on the scene before the cops showed up to get rid of evidence because they didn't, wanted the scandal to form one of the high-profile celebrities. So there's a lot of shenanigans like that.
We saw the same thing with David Von Erich's death when over in Japan. Remember they said it was reported that Bruiser Brody went to the hotel room and he had like a whole heap of gimmicks around there was a whole heap of gimmicks around his David Von Erich's body, and apparently he flushed a whole heap of them Allegedly,
supposedly, maybe. But the thing is this: sometimes what wrestlers do. I mean, how can I explain it? Sometimes you're doing things you think is for the good. Like if you saw one of your buddies overdose and you flushed the shit because you don't want the story to get out, and he has a family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you don't want it in the paper, so and so died of an overdose. Oh my God, my dad died of an overdose. Sometimes some things that people do that is not good is sometimes for the greater good because they think they're doing the right thing, to protect their friend. Again, you don't know what goes through people's mind because again, nobody wants to be, labeled as a drug addict or because you have a celebrity status. You have people who look up to you.
But also, I think as well, the person calling it in is going, hang on a second, there's a dead body here. I'm fucking the only conscious person here right now. There's a shitload of drugs. Someone's going to get the blame for them. In a way, do you think it's, well, yeah, I want to protect my buddy, but also like, you know what, I got to protect my own fucking ass here as well because
you got to protect yourself.
I'm the last man standing. No one else is here.
Because like in here in the States, and I know it's probably in Australia, but I'm just saying, like, yo, if I showed up at pause, I'm using it as an example. I show up at your house with like, yo, I got the coke, I got the pills, I got the gimmicks. I supply you with the gimmicks, and
wrestling with tragedy after
yeah,
party.
and then you die. I will be charged with that involuntary manslaughter, because I'm providing you the drugs for the reason why you died. So I'm like, shit, flush, wipe your nose, get rid of the gimmicks and shit. I don't know what happened. I came over and he just dropped dead. Because again, you're scared.
So if a drug dealer sells someone, like say a couple of ecstasy tablets, the person takes these ecstasy tablets, dies, is the drug dealer then the liable person?
Hell yeah.
But then does it then go up the food chain? It's like, well, where did does it go to the drug dealer's distribution? Where did you know what I mean? Like, it just depends on who's going to give up who, really.
Yeah, but that's the thing, man. Then, I mean, there's only a certain, they ain't going to go after motherfuckers in Colombia. Where'd you get your drugs? I got it from Carlos in Colombia. Then you're going to send it to the DEA and let the DEA deal with the bullshit. They're just going to charge the person who supplied the individual with the drugs, and whatever comes, if there's more to that case to pat on their stats, then absolutely. But they're just going to charge you, and then be like, where'd you get your supply from Carlos? And then they give that information to the next agency and says, hey, we have a case here. This individual died. He said Carlos supplied him. He supplied, then you build a case. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy all the cases. Tragedies around world class. David Von Erich dies. Gino Hernandez dies. Bruiser Brody gets murdered. Mike Von Erich, Chris Von Erich. Kerry eventually leaves to the WWF, but then obviously he ends up dying as well. I mean, so many tragedies. They couldn't even keep up, like all the shit that was going on down there.
But you also got to think back in those days, like the 70s, 80s. Come on, dude. There's a lot of things like, hey, try this, man. Just like if you're at a bar, dude, try this new drink. This is bad drink, and you just drink it and enjoy it. Man, this is a good drink, and you keep drinking. It was a social drug. Didn't know it would hurt you. It would affect you. It was a party drug. It just got you excited, just like amphetamines. Amphetamines back in the days was supplied by your doctor. Didn't know it was an addicted thing. Oh, I love it. I love it. You know what I mean? It just depends, man. Yeah. I mean, a lot of wrestlers was doing coke because it was fashionable, and it was like, man, I feel great. Just like steroids. I took steroids. I'm like, man, I feel great. My bones don't hurt. My joint, I feel strong. I feel bad, but it's illegal. Yeah, it's illegal, but I feel great. It's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Fuck it.
Okay.
I mean, that's just how it is, man. It's just a different mindset, man. If you supplied me with gimmicks and that I'm requesting for, hey, I don't want you to get charged for it because I'm the one that said, yo, bring some gimmicks. Yeah. You got any somas? You got any Vicodins? Yeah, here you go, brother. That's my fucking fault.
Do you think Gino, if he had gone on to the WWF, do you think he would have been a massive, massive star over there?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's hard because back in those days, Vince was into big guys and stuff like that,
He's decent size. He's probably 6'2", 6'3". I mean, he had decent size.
Dan Spivey, Hulk Hogan.
Those guys are way bigger,
the Ultimate Warrior. You know, I mean, he was into the muscle heads, man. You know that. I mean, again, it just depends, man, where you fall in that card. But
I think he would have been an awesome fit for the NWA. If even if not the Horseman, he would have been a great heel, great top act in the NWA, and then eventually WCW.
Yeah, the NWA. I mean, that's a different breed because again, everybody was big dudes, but normal dudes. I mean, you got the Road Warriors, you got the I was gonna say House of Pain. With you know what I'm saying, with Warlord and stuff like that. But
Powers of Pain.
But those guys were jacked. But I mean, then you had your normal dudes of like, you know, Magnum TA, you know, Tully Blanchard. They were physically fit, but they weren't fucking jacked to the gills, you know.
I could just picture him behind, you know, the podium or with Shivani or you know, somebody with the stick and him just cutting the promo and fans just either loving him or hating him. I just feel like he would fit so perfectly in NWA, WCW kind of going forward. And he would have been great. Would have been top of the card heel.
I think he would have had some amazing matches with Magnum TA. And I think that would have been like a really good like storyline because Gino was such a good heel. And Magnum was such a good baby face. Like he was he was so over as a face, Magnum TA, and I think Gino could have been a really good antagonist for him to tell a really compelling story, and it would have been an amazing feud, I believe.
You know, and that's what I feel bad about Magnum TA is that you know, I can explain it, man. You know, like the could have, would have, should have, man. I mean, if he would have not been in that accident, where you would have been. Gino Hernandez, you know, if that didn't happen to him, where would have been? You know, and a lot of wrestlers like, oh, I don't care. You know, I'm happy with my life now. It is because to this day, I still like, man, what if I would have stayed in Puerto Rico? What if I didn't go back to move to Kansas and I would have went back to the could have, would have, should have? You know, yeah. Do I regret it a little bit? Yeah, it still tickles in my heart that I'm like, man, you know, things would have been different. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I wish Gino would have still been alive because the possibilities would have been endless, man. Endless.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I think he would have definitely had a stellar career. I could have seen, even if he went into WWF, I think he could have really had some good matches with like Ricky Steamboat, Macho Man. Yeah, really just go into that sort of mid-card title sort of thing, like the upper mid-card.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, and around that time, 86, 87, that's when like Macho and you know, those sort of guys were sort of putting on some of those amazing matches, you know.
Well, I mean, like I said, we could go on and on what could have happened, but again, this is a mystery that is just, like I said, it's like a JFK, you know, murders or assassination, man. There's so many variables, there's so many ways we can go about it to figure this out, but the only people that will still know to this day is no longer here. And that's Gino Hernandez. And I don't know if John Royal is still alive, but if he is, he's the only one that knows. And until then, when it's just always going to be a mystery, you know.
Did you see the Dark Side of the Ring documentary a few years ago on Gino?
Yes. It was really good.
That was actually pretty good. That was before they started getting into their agendas and stuff. Like they were actually trying to cover the story for real. But I thought that was very good. And I don't remember, somebody called the mother and told them it was an OD. Do you remember that towards the end? They had somebody call the mother and tell them they knew for a fact that it was an OD. I don't know if you remember that or not.
It was like in the movies, that, you know, like they put the
yeah.
Just want to
apparently it was a high figure in the underworld that called her and said he wasn't murdered.
Again,
just to make her feel good about it, but
she again,
probably still doesn't know. Yeah,
throwing the smoke and mirrors. I mean, if somebody calls you out the blue says it wasn't murder, then you're gonna go, well, why would he call? It's all, you know, the sleight of hand. You know, sometimes you know you throw something in there to give it some doubt. But again, like I said, this is something
like wrestling, bro. It's working an angle.
You just never know, you know. But
it's like the end of the Baldies. You just don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I know, man. You know, it's just like the end of Animal House. You see like the little credit, like, oh, what happened to DeVito? He's a postal worker. What happened to Angel? Never know what happened. You know, that's,
I mean,
you know, ended up in Argentina.
Baldies, you got to really compare him to like the Rockers, though. You know, John Paz, like. You know, DeVito went on to Ring of Honor to start the Carnage crew and, you know, become Ring of Honor tag team champion. So he's definitely the Sean there and, you know, the genetic
negative
over here. So
I was the one that kicked his little midget ass through the fucking window.
Do you ever find that though? insulting, like, hey, Marty, Sean, like, you ever find that just in general, when people say, oh, you're the Marty Jannetty, Jannetty was actually really good. Obviously, minus the being fired from WWF 7 times, he was really good. So I always think that's funny that people always kind of make it sound like Jannetty sucked. He was just as good as Sean. He just didn't get the push.
It's like the movie.
John,
it's like the movie Kingpin, man. Munson, you got Munson. You know.
Yeah.
John, let me put it to you like this: if you were a wrestler, which career would you have preferred to have? Shawn Michaels or HBK? Or
HB of course, yeah.
Yeah, but that was Marty's fault. I mean, all the things that happened to him was his doing, and that's what it is. He could have been successful, and they gave him the opportunity, but he blew it away. And I'm not knocking him. It's just
7 times, I think.
Yeah, that's just the fact of the stories of what happened. You know, but hey, man, I don't want to cut this short. You know, I do have to get on the road. I have a long 9-hour trip to Texas, and I don't want the fans to, you know, ramble on. But I know it's a long fucking drive, but let's get those sponsors up, man. Sleeves.com, man, one of the greatest websites out there. If you need your sport athletic wear, definitely check out Sleeves.com. Definitely check out the Dirty Boxes. They do have some specials going on for Black Friday and in the Christmas holiday. Show your husband you love him by giving them the animal on their crotch, or, you know, the gimmick on their crotch. Use promo code MWAPOD for 10% off. Tell them Wrestling with Tragedy sent you, or even get a more benefit. Send them John Paul's sent you.
Ooh,
it's more of a stature than I do.
And we've got healthvape.com, ladies and gentlemen. Health Vape offer you a healthy vaping alternative. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they are vitamin infused, guys. So make sure you go check out some of their vape and pod products. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Boom.
Final thoughts, real quick.
Just funny, like, you think cut and dry, OD, but then the autopsy, then John Royal, then the weird actions at the funeral, then the body, you know, decomposing for a few days. So there's always question marks. I know we were saying it's possibly more likely an OD, but all those question marks surrounding it do make it very, very mysterious, and gone way too soon at 29. Would have been a huge star in the business. Gino Hernandez, very, very good worker, very good talker, and a ton of charisma. Awesome heel. Wish he could have been around a lot longer.
Pierce?
I absolutely agree, man. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, he was someone I wasn't very knowledgeable about, but starting to look into him. I definitely want to go back and watch a lot more of his work. I really enjoyed his promos. As I said, I really enjoyed a few of the matches I saw against him and Chavo Sr. A great talent that was taken way too long, taken away way too soon, sorry. And, you know, I think as well, someone who struggled with a lot of demons and addictions, and eventually that was what led to his downfall.
My final thoughts is I think Gino Hernandez was a hell of a wrestler. He was not one of my favorite wrestlers, but as you watch him through his career, you're like, man, this guy has some style, some class, some, you know, like a Ric Flair. Like I said, the Four Horsemen, he would have definitely fit in that mold. Gone too soon. Don't know what could have happened in his career. He could have been the man of his era, but unfortunately his vices took a hold of him and led him in the wrong path. Again, Gino Hernandez, great wrestler. I appreciate all the footages that he had with gentleman Chris Adams. I think he was one of the best, just like Chris Adams, and sorry that he's gone.
That's it. All right, guys. Well, look, that's the Wrestling with Tragedy for this week, case number 85. We are that crack investigation unit for the Russo's brand. You can get an exclusive first look at all of our future episodes by going to russosbrand.com, going to channelattitude.com, or patreon.com/RussoTWC. Guys, make sure you tune in next week. We're going to be bringing you another exciting case number, so make sure you stay tuned for that, see what we've got coming up. But you can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all podcast platforms, Wrestling with Tragedy. Make sure you give us a follow, subscribe, like, and share, and tell your friends about us as well. But guys, it's always a pleasure. Until next week, I'm Pierce. This is John Poz and the Kingpin Angel. We'll catch you next week. Peace.
Peace out.
Peace. We're out of here.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.